many of us, how do you feel about introducing yourself and telling us the last thing that you worked on so that people will be familiar with you? How does that sound? Mr. Edginton, let's start with you. I don't know if your mic's open, so... Rob?
Oh,
yes.
thank you. Okay. Is that working? Is that all right?
Yes. Yeah.
Ian Edginton. Last thing I worked on was Scarlet Tracy's Cold War with Matt Rooker, which is currently in the collection, and you can buy from our table.
Nice try.
Always Yep, INJ Culbard, and the I stands for, well, I'm not telling you, but the, and I do Brink and Brass Sun.
John Wagner, last thing I worked on is Rock of the Reds.
Hooray!
You can buy it, my dear.
Hi, Simon Davis. Worked on Slane. Hopefully it's not the last thing I work on.
TC Eglington, T for Tom. The last thing I think was Sons of Booth, the Dredd story. Yeah.
Emma Beeby, and the last thing was The Alienist, which is just finishing off in the project just now.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, as we are celebrating 40 years of thrill power, what has been your biggest thrill in your career so far? And I don't think we want kids in the audience, please keep it clear.
Where are we starting?
Emma, let's start with you this time, and then we can do the mic back and forward that way, and it'll make it nice and easy.
No pressure. It's hard to top getting to write Dredd, really. Yeah, that's probably it for me. It's also something I never expected to do, and mostly just to see if I could. It sort of worked out all right. So yeah, I think probably that's one for me, I would say.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. It's a good opening. Well, this year I managed to work with Brendan McCarthy. He was like my absolute hero as a kid.
Yeah.
So that was kind of hard to top. And a bit weird writing for someone you kind of idolise a bit. So that was, yeah, I think that's my topper for the year so far.
I think apart from getting the initial call from David Bishop to say that he's going to give us work, which was amazing. I think working on Slane, I think it's the first series I haven't had to do a straight line in, so it was a huge relief.
I think it was probably the first script I ever sold, which is always a big thrill. And mine was Jackpot, the Gambling Kid. One page funny for core.
When are you going to bring it back?
I got to write and draw a Future Shock. That was diplomatic, wasn't it? Yeah.
Just starting to work for 2008, full stop. Been reading it from issue 1 to actually get a job working on it. It was like a bit of a dream come true.
Fantastic. Sorry about this slightly long question here, but next week sees a new Jumping on Prog and the first new Zenith story in 25 years. If the original creators aren't interested in revisiting them, do you think 2000 AD legacy characters should be begging for new creators to have a crack at? That's the first time that has ever happened, ever.
And can we keep the blows?
Who would like to answer this question?
John.
I think as long as the original creators are happy with it, that's fine. Otherwise, don't do it.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any different opinion?
No.
Yeah, no, I guess that's it. It's, yeah.
In which case, if you could have a crack at a legacy character, who would it be? Who would you like to have a go at writing? And I think we can open that outside 2018 as well. If you could write any character, who would it be? Ian?
Well, 2008, I would like to do Halo Jones. Because I just want to know how it finishes. So. But yeah, that's the anything else.
in 2000 AD, Strontium Dog. Outside 2000 AD, Dazzler.
I don't really like writing any characters that I haven't created, so I have to say the one I'd most like to write is Rock of the Reds, which you can buy at my table.
No, I think I'd just steer clear pretty much of. I'm just pretty happy with what I do now, and the one thing that I miss about doing comics is the thrill of reading and seeing somebody else's work on comics. So I'd rather keep it that way, really, than rather than have a go at it myself and not be as good.
I love DR and Quinch, but it would be a disaster to go anywhere near it because to me it's like so perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I could do like a breakaway story. But yeah, that's never going to happen because I think the original writer might not be into it. I don't know. just a guess. I'm just hazarding a guess.
Whenever I'm asked what other things I've worked on, I always say Shackle. Because I've just been so much to and bring back. I've no idea other than that. You know, they're all so great. I mean, I would agree on the Halo Jones thing, but I don't think I'd be quite brave enough to try and finish it. I think I'd just do a sort of little tiny one-off thing and try and work on the language part. I don't know. Yeah, too many choices. I'd have to think about that for a long time. Longer than this.
But you've had a good look because you've had Judge Dredd and you've done Doctor Who as well, haven't you? They're like two big ones.
Yeah. Yes.
And I know what I'm talking about when I say two big ones. I couldn't help it.
I'm just going to hand this over to someone else.
I'm in so much trouble.
So, back on track, thank you, Bill. Dredd, why do you think Judge Dredd is the most enduring character in 2000 AD? Has the influence of multiple creators made the character stronger, perhaps?
Let's ask John last.
I think it's two things. It's not just Judge Dredd, but it's also Mega City 1. Both work together. And Mega City 1's amazing. I was thinking recently, I think the internet is like Mega City 1. Every time you go on, there's like robots on there, people doing the craziest stuff to get attention, and like strange trends just coming and going really quickly. So it kind of, it's prefigured lots of stuff. For instance, Robert L. Booth as a horrible Trump-like figure, as you know, there's so many things to Dredd, as well as the character of Dredd. So it's kind of a great world, I think, is the short answer.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think it's the sandbox quality and the fact you can do so many different types of stories within Dredd, and that's really fun. Is you can do something quite dark and horrific, and then you can do something which is basically straight up comedy, and you know, and it's perfectly well accommodated within it. And there's very few things that really have that.
Yeah.
But I like to do the funny stories because I think he's the ultimate straight guy, and he works the humour and everything just works somehow. And I mean, when we did the Farage story, Dave Taylor and I said, you know, we're going to get the bricks through our windows and bags of burning poo on our doorstep now if they know where we're at. But you know, wasn't expecting to work quite so well. But he was just such a perfect foil for that situation.
I think Tom summed it up fully for me. There's so many facets to the city and so many things you can do with it, with Dredd and with other characters. There's comedy, humour, drama, horror. It's so adaptable, Mega City 1, and that's really the reason it's lasted.
Yeah, you've often talked about the Mega City as a character in itself, John, and do you think that there's room for other stories without Dredd there then?
Oh yeah, we've actually written Dredd where Dredd didn't appear. So yeah, plenty of room. You could lose Dredd and it's still be a good story.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, sorry, it's my turn to ask a question. Sorry about that. This is a question Steve's asked us to ask. So, without some conflict with management, Nemesis might not have come about. Do you think that sort of conflict can be a good thing creatively? Steve's looking comfortable now.
Who's going to go near that landmine?
Personally, I prefer to get on with management. I just, rather not fight with them, especially over money. I like them to give me as much as they can, frequently. But I'm not sure that conflict improves anything. But maybe, certainly if you're having a go at management, it does.
Have you noticed a difference in the management over the years?
Oh yeah. Most of them are horrible. But got to say, Rebellion have done an awful lot to save 2000 AD. 2000 AD could have gone down the pan. If it had been left with Egmont, it would have. So much praise to Rebellion. But generally, I hated management. They lie to you a lot, and they try and cheat you, and they don't give you your rights, and they're just a horrible bunch. Except Rebellion.
But on that note, this question sort of links into that a little bit, in that obviously there's been a lot of changes over comics the last 40 years, and 2018 being one of the very few exceptions as a weekly comic on the newsstand now. How do you think it maintains its relevance to still find a weekly comic where so few exist?
I would imagine it is because it has that huge variety. For instance, next week's Jumping On Point, I mean, it's got something for everybody in there. And I think that's what is its strength. I mean, there's so many of the comics that I would just go to a comic shop and look at it and think, I'm never going to buy that. It's just not. Whereas Two Towers got something for everybody. Really, it's great.
Yeah, I think Rebellion have done a really great thing, which is they've managed to keep all the old stuff and keep running with that, and then also still have new stuff being created. So new series, new ideas, keeping it fresh, and that's a really difficult balance to get right, and which I think they've sort of done. And it means you're always getting fresh stuff as well as, the classic characters. So it's kind of I think that kind of works really well. It's really good.
Yeah, I think it's that diversity, and also just I think the attitude of 2018 being a bit irreverent, and it has fun and kind of take the piss out of stuff with some things. And I think that really helps in keeping things fresh as well.
Look, I agree.
Okay, so moving on to, we find it fascinating to find out what the creators' influences are. Could you talk a little bit about your influences in your writing or your drawing? Like who influences you?
Fun, Simon, you're an artist.
Well, so, my influences, when I was a kid, so my first art I loved was Asterix, and then moving, sort of a direct influence, I think, is, I don't know if you know an Italian artist who died a couple of years ago, Sergio Toppi. Absolutely incredible artist. So, but there's so many influences. I mean, when I was reading comics, there was a sort of wave in the sort of early 90s, late 80s of artists, painters, Kent Williams and Bill Sienkiewicz, and it's just amazing. And that first made me realise that comics, there is a home for. I wasn't really wanting to do sort of black and white comics particularly, but that made me realise there's a home for fully painted art. And then when Busy started doing slang and stuff, and you think, oh yeah, that's great. So that's why I've stuck personally with the Two Tower, never strayed. I've been very faithful, and just because I can paint fully painted work every week, and that'll never happen anywhere else. So.
outside of AD, because obviously growing up reading it, that's lots of influence, but it's a real mixture for what kind of inspires you, and what I find is quite good to almost not always be comics, so there's like a lot of novels. I read lots of, sort of straight stuff, like sort of even philosophy, or kind of like, current ideas, anything. A lot of like Kurt Vonnegut or William Burroughs, like that kind of generation of writers as well. A lot of the old sci-fi writers, and even the sort of modern stuff. I've gone over the William Gibson stuff again recently, and that was still great, still really strong. So yeah, it's a mixture of influences, I guess.
Yeah, a huge mixture. I mean, I came in a bit later to comics. I kind of read some Vertigo stuff in my late teens, and that was me. I was wanting to read lots more different types of comics and relying on people to tell me what to read and give me things and bring me things, and that was how I got into it. So I didn't grow up reading it, so it all felt quite kind of fresh to me at that age. So I kind of started off reading kind of Neil Gaiman, who were sort of very ambitious kind of storytelling, weird stuff. And I think that's probably had the biggest influence. But I just like to read lots and lots of different types of things, and because comics you can do quite experimental, weird stuff you can't do in any other medium, and I really like to try and do that. And what I'm trying to do now with other things I'm working on is to just sort of push my own boundaries on what I think about how to put things on a page and how to explore things in panels, and it's fun. There's things you can do in comics and nothing else.
I kind of grew up reading John Wyndham and H.G. Wells and all that kind of stuff on shows, but what I'm trying to do now is just be as diverse as I can, like histories and biographies and things like that. Sometimes stuff that isn't notably science fiction or fantasy, just kind of get my head in a different area, and that kind of that feeds into what he writes. You get there's little lines or ideas or something, and you just go, "Ooh, that could be quite turn that around." So
I grew up bilingual. My English wasn't very good. My mum used to nick comics from doctors' waiting rooms, and one of those was 2000 AD. And there was Tintin and stuff like that. And but big influences are Messier from Valerian and Laureline. And what else? Otomo, Tezuka, people like that.
Are you moving on? Oh, right. Does this actually work? Yeah, it does. So many influences: books, film, television, real life. But I suppose the primary influence on what I write and the way I write were the T.C. Thompson comics of the 60s and early 70s. It was such good, clear, imaginative storytelling, and also the lessons I learned working for D.C. Thompson's, which is nothing I do is ever good enough. And it's a basic lesson of my writing that I'll never actually be perfect. There's always something better I can do, and that was D.C. Thompson's that taught me that.
I love this one because I think it can be quite interesting. But what's the best piece of advice you were ever given, and what's the best piece of advice you would pass on to new creators? Oh God!
I'll give you my favourite one, and that is get on with your editor. They're the people that buy your stuff, and if you don't get on with them, then you're not going to get very far.
That's the best piece of advice I've ever got. So just use that.
Just don't be afraid to write, put it down on the paper. If you don't do the writing in the first place, and never get anything done, even if it's crap. There's been a week last week, just write stuff and threw it all away, and then on Sunday, did a whole script. And just you need to do that. And also, don't miss a deadline. Just be honest. If you're going to fuck up, excuse me. So, just be upfront and honest, and don't hide things back from your editor.
Yeah, it's good. I would say, yeah, it's kind of echoing that, but just get it done. If you write, if anyone writes, I would just say, always try and get it finished, even if it's not perfect, because otherwise you'll just get caught in a trap of trying to create this perfect thing, and the best thing is a deadline because you have to finish it. And even if you sort of think, that could have been better, you get it done, and that's the kind of main thing. Because so many people I know that want to be writers they just get caught on this loop of not quite finishing things because they want it to be the perfect thing. So.
And the best piece of advice I was given is to only write things you really, really want to write. And I think that's a fantastic piece of advice, because if you take on something and think, yeah, I'll be okay, and you hate it, then that would just no, don't ever do that. Just to make some sort of, because you've got a good job. And yeah, I think I mostly agree with just sit down and get something done, and don't worry about it being good. It's not even when you're established. Everything you do is going to be to your satisfaction. So just getting things down and getting them out there is enough.
Simon.
From an artist's point of view, I think the best advice I could give, is just be a sponge and just take on things from every side of art. There's something to be learned everywhere. So and I didn't sort of particularly get given. I can't think of a particular thing of advice, but when I was a kid, my mum particularly used to just take me to every terrible film, and poor sod. But it's just taking that, just indulging a child or whatever in what the hobbies and the fads and the fancies that they have, and that's what is more important, certainly more important to me than any kind of formal education, was just having your imagination just sort of indulged. And that's my advice.
Is it me now? God, I'm stuck. I can't think. Eat your veg. Make sure you get lots of walks in every day. Look after yourself, because you forget that when you work in this kind of industry. Get out, meet people.
Leave the house.
They all tend to
leave the house.
That's leave the house, Smile more, stuff like that.
Never have a drink before 2.
Can I just add a little bit extra to that, because I know when some of you mentioned about not wanting to be perfect, and I have heard other artists talk about how they could always go back and change something. So how do you know when you're done? How do you know when you're finished?
It's a deadline.
Is that just what it is? Or
It's the
when
deadline
are you
says,
happy?
give up that baby now, hand it over, it's done, you're finished. I think that, because you could pick at something for years, and you will do as well, that's the other thing, you'll sit collected, you'll sit there and you go, oh God, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. You can't really do that. You kind of have to keep propelling forward, and but yeah, definitely, it's never ever done for you, but that's what deadlines are for.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in it's never finished, it's just abandoned.
Okay, so probably one of the last ones for us. I'm not sure where's our little red shirt? Little red shirt? That's quite actually.
That was
Sorry. So we how long we've got, but he's disappeared. Okay.
Half an hour. It's 4 o'clock now.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully there's a lot of questions.
Right, 15. I think we're 15. We're going to put a second point. So anyway, sorry, back in the room. What have you got coming up or out that you can talk about for 2018? Yes, that's not a question for us. So what have you got? What are you working on at the moment? You can tell us.
More breast sun.
So that's me down the Dive Johnson.
More Kingmaker with Lee. Matt, Mr. Disraeli, he's off doing something for Dark Horse for a year, so what I'm going to be doing is banking a couple of Scarlet Traces series and some more stickback as well. And there'll be more helium, but we're getting Tiernan Trevelyan to take over, because Matt's only done one series. So Tiernan's going to step up, because he's got a really good, he fits that steampunk I'm doing a 4-part for Everyday Taylor. I've just finished doing this Spine Maiden thing.
God, he's busy.
Two small children. So
You don't actually sleep, do you? You just
yeah, that's about it.
There's more Brink. So, yeah, that's the other thing.
I'm working on a Strontium Dog, Son of Wolf, which should be out around about Christmas, and then towards Christmas I'll be doing a second part of Harvey for John McRae, where we may leave robots on the street. We'll see.
I'm just finishing off the last book of Slain that I'm doing, and hopefully after that, after a while, I'll do some more Slain.
I've got Dredd coming out at the moment with this jump on prog, the Icon it's called. So a 3-parter, which is sort of a controversy around a statue that's getting built, which was written before the whole stuff in America came out. Which was kind of weird. I've had a year of doing things where it's sort of mirroring stuff that's happening, which is really weird. So there's that. There's more Dredd coming. There's Blunt 2 that I'm doing with Boo Cook, which I think that's been announced coming out in next year, start of next year. And yeah, and a few other things that can't talk about yet. So yeah, cool. Good bunch of stuff.
Tom, will we see your artwork?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. I've gone across a weird threshold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did some artwork for the Vice Press Bizarre Jazz exhibition, which is a Judge Anderson printers augmented reality. So you get an app, and when you pass it over, it sort of comes alive. It's the future. It's magic.
Go and look at the exhibition, guys, if you haven't. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great exhibition. It's really cool stuff.
It's really good.
I've got a new Judge Anderson series coming up. Will be out next year. Art by David Roach, and it's looking very, very, very nice. So yes, it's extremely beautiful. So I'm looking forward to seeing that here. Yeah, hopefully some more survival geeks. She says with me. So you'll be hearing from me next week.
Cool.
Just, you might not know this. Is that going to be coloured or is it going to be black and white? I'm ready to know.
Anderson.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be coloured. I'm not entirely sure now that you mention it. Sure, it was coloured mentioned. It was quite a while ago that it started, to be fair, so I can't remember too well. But yeah, I think it's going to be coloured. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Go on. Yeah. Sure. I'm not sure you'll get an answer, but you can try.
We have to ask this. John, could we ask you, about the TV show? Is there anything you can tell us?
No.
I suspected that might be the answer.
I know they're well into it. I'm supposed to be consulting on it, but I haven't consulted on anything at the moment.
Right.
So, but they're forging ahead.
Brilliant. Thank you. Sorry, we had to ask. Sorry. On everyone's brains. Okay.
Yeah, should we ask you, the audience, anyone got any questions? Can you shout really loud? All of it is going to be a microphone down.
Hello, this is a question for John. John, Rock of the Reds, which I understand you might have available for sale at your what made you decide to go down the industry with rock? Because I think you could have sat quite happily in 2000 AD.
Well, actually, Matt did offer to publish it, but I just thought it would look a bit incongruous. The type of story it was, the simple kind of storytelling that I used on it. I didn't think it would sit that well in 2000. I was probably wrong. It would probably have worked very well in 2000 AD. But I don't think I'd have liked to split it into short episodes. In the way I've done it, it works really well in a 20-page book. So I'm happy with the way it's gone, but it would have fitted well in 2000 AD. It would have skewed the story a bit. I've had to tell it in a different way. So I'm glad that I didn't. But if Matt wants to offer to reprint it, I'm open to offers.
You had a question or something, yeah.
Hello, Astro. As someone who's just going into publishing, I'd like to go back to the talking about the rights. And there was talk that management are okay if they give you the rights for the creators. And I'm just wondering, looking at something like, I know we're crossing over, but the Watchmen, before Watchmen, which apparently to all reports was a horrendous mess. But do the publishers have rights too for these characters and these stories and these worlds? Or is it purely the creators? Anyway.
Most of the stuff that appears in 2000 AD is actually owned by the publishers. There are a few stories, things like Button Man and Owl's Baby and some of Pat Mills' stuff, I think, that are creator-owned. It's not so much a question of them giving rights out, it's more the creators having to sell them, which is the position we were always in up until the early 90s. These days they still are open to buying creator-owned material, they'll just pay you less for it, which I think is a fairly good arrangement.
Which they're doing recently in the magazine, you know, there's creator-owned stories running in the Meg, which I think PG and Salisbury started with Numberjack.
Number Cruncher.
Number Cruncher.
Yeah.
God, you tell I've got kids. No, Numberjack. So there is that as well then.
So with Zenith, for example, it's just, or DR and Quinch, it's just out of respect that no one would touch them.
Yeah, especially the old stuff. Seems. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions? Mr. Burdis?
I've got one. Reference to Dredd. Should we really have a showrunner in charge of the whole world of Dredd? Because the problem is we're getting so many interesting tales by numerous writers and elongated tales, but there's hardly any references to major incidents that happen in somebody else's story. So when you're reading, say, a magazine story and it has no reference, you sort of like going, is this the same world? Because we're just not getting any feedback from horrendous things that have happened, whether by yourself, John, or yourself, you know what I mean, or whoever's written it. I just think we need somebody to say, right, this is where we're going to go, so we can reference deaths or major calamities or whatever.
Yeah, and also it should have been done with the art. You know, you get so many different versions of the bike and of buildings and even of characters. You know, you look at characters, nothing like the one that was drawn 2 years ago. I totally agree with you, there should always have been someone in charge of Dredd continuity, the whole thing, and it would have helped a great deal. So yes, you're right, there should have been.
And obviously it should be just 7 links on the chain.
Well, there we have to.
I think some of that as well, sorry, quickly, because some of that I've noticed with just writing Dredd, especially the one-offs, it might not, the reason I think some of it happens is because like I read something that won't appear for months and months because they're not sure where it's going to slot in. So you don't always get the continuity because it's just not available. Do you know what I mean?
I understand with the one-offs, but
Yeah.
when you've got like an 8-parter and you're doing something really elaborate and it might be an 8-parter followed by a year down the line another 8-parter to add to that, there's no references to what
it would sort of make sense to have that kind of...
It's like when that the spaceship was smashed in the
in
the bay with all that weaponry on board, and then after Chaos Day that was still down there, and I know Dredd went down there to do his thing, but surely that should be mentioned because there was all that power on board that the city could be used for defensive purposes. It's just things like that.
Well, if you're not the writer of that story though, like I always feel like, well, I shouldn't encroach on someone else's material a bit, so do you know what I mean?
I understand, but that's where if Thag was going to sort of like say, right, okay, then that can be used. Yeah, use that, bring that into the story, but obviously contact whoever used it first, you know.
No.
Just as devil's advocate a little bit as well, though, isn't it nice to see different artists' take on what the megacity and the bikes and things look like to them? No. I think this. Does anybody have a favourite version of Megacity 1? Because I really, really love how certain artists draw it compared to other ones, and it's different how that's their vision. John's going to lynch me after this.
No, I can see what you mean, and sometimes I see like some of the stuff they've put out, I don't know if it's been put out for the new TV series, some of the cityscapes they've shown are quite exciting, but they're not Carlos's. I can agree with you up to that extent, but there really ought to be more continuity of plot and character. And it's a full-time job, though. It's not something that Matt could handle as well as being an editor. We really needed, someone like John there to take control.
Not John.
Do not encourage him.
Was there a lady with a question?
One more question. Do you want to pass that along to the lady again?
Can I ask whose idea it was to first have female judges in Judge Dredd?
First female, whose idea was it to have first female judge in Judge Dredd? Female judges.
Well, I suppose I wrote the first one, but there was never any exclusion. Female judges were always a possibility. Female police now, it would be absurd if there weren't female judges.
Son of the job.
Or a deadline, it is.
It is, it's an editor.
Do you not think it's really exciting though that that the female judges in 2008 are treated exactly the same? There's no real difference, and I think that's one of the most positive things and what's really appealing as a female reader.
They shower together as well. Males and females. It's Johnny Alpha you want to shower with.
That's what I'm saying, this upcoming story is the no hint of a sexy Geordie lady, not just redhead maybe.
Well, funnily
Okay, that's probably a good place to wrap up. Behave yourself. Right, thank you very much, all the panel.
Yeah,
We've got enough
everybody.
time now.